Supreme Commander 2 has 33 experimental units to choose from. The strongest units in the game that dwarf everything else in size and power. But out of all these experimentals, which one do you think is the strongest? It's probably not what you think. While most major experimentals suffer from their ridiculous price tags, the AC-1000 only costs 12 research and 470 mass. For that amount, you get a killing machine as effective against small land unit spam as it is versus major land experimentals, with the ability to fly anywhere on the map and swiftly take out strategic targets such as nuke defense, gantries, or just end the game outright by sniping the enemy ACU. 470 mass is a similar cost to 2 anti-air towers. Let's see how they do. No other experimental is more intimidating if left unchecked. While land experimentals come from expected directions and you only have to worry about them on the front line, once UEF gets a large air force going, everything is in danger. Now, before any of you Andros fans watching think,
"Yes, he was right! Rushing AC-1Ks is the best strat!"
you must realize that there are some important prerequisites before you can even think about researching them. Not meeting these requirements turns AC-1Ks from unbridled destruction roaming the skies into a mild inconvenience easily shot down before it can even leave its base. There are two important things you must have before building them: air control and time. I've mentioned air control before in some of my previous tutorials, but it can be simplified as having more fighters than the enemy. Bombers, gunships, air experimentals, and especially anti-air towers don't count. Once you have more fighters than the enemy team does, you have air control. Without air control, all air units you build must be fighters, because any mass you spend on other things could be mass that the enemy is using to outnumber your fighters. Without fighter support, bombers, gunships, and air experimentals easily get shot down the moment they try attacking anything. Now, if you start with 2 or 3 research stations in a team game and you wish to rush AC-1Ks the Andros way, the only way to do it is to talk with your teammates, make sure at least one player is building nothing but fighters, wait for him to scout the enemy base, and only once you're sure your team has a greater or equal amount of air players can you continue. If the enemy team has more air players than you do, tough luck. You gotta do something else, like Fat Boys. If you try building air experimentals anyway, you're going to be useless and possibly turn a 4v4 into a 3v4. In 1v1s, it's a lot more complicated, because depending on the map, you might be in a situation where a part of your mass is going into land units and a part of your mass is going into fighters trying to win air control. You could try investing more into fighters, but that might make you lose the land fight and the enemy will easily break through before that air advantage can be used. If there's a big air fight happening, the enemy team comes out on top and one of their air players is UEF, you know your minutes are numbered. All you have left is time and it's slowly ticking down. 1 or 2 AC-1Ks won't do much, but the longer somebody holds air control, the more things they can attack. If you have enough time to build 4 or 5, they become almost unstoppable. No amount of shields and anti-air can hold. There are only 2 things that can stop them. If the enemy team wins back air control over some supporting anti-air, the AC-1Ks are left defenseless. The only other option left is Cicada and adapters. But if you use your AC-1Ks right, the enemy team won't have a chance to do either of those. Instead of just blindly going for an ACU snipe and risking losing air control over enemy anti-air, you should consider starting with the edges of their base, especially their mass extractors. As long as you don't need to use your AC-1000s for defense against incoming land units, destroying all of the enemy base should only be a question of time. But how do you effectively use them against ground targets? Simply right-clicking your target is usually the worst thing you can do, as the AC-1000 will start circling it at max speed, flying way deeper into enemy territory than it has to. A simple trick you should do instead is enable weapon range and options to see how far it can shoot, and then keep giving movement orders to stay right at the edge of its range, making sure the target is always on the right side of the AC-1000. Since it can only shoot its weapons from the right side, you have to move forward very slowly to keep it facing in the right direction, circling clockwise. Staying at max range will minimize the amount of anti-air shooting back and also allows any supporting fighters to stay out of enemy anti-air range completely, only engaging enemy fighters in a safe area. But on some maps this can be tricky because of height differences, so I recommend angling your camera into a top-down view by holding spacebar and moving your mouse down. Either you circle the entire enemy base clockwise, slowly chipping away the layers until there is nothing left, or you can focus on a specific area and do passes, resetting back to the same position with counterclockwise movement, which is unfortunately time spent not firing. Usually, you'll just end up using a combination of both depending on the situation. In some cases, the AC-1000 range is so long that you can completely outrange the anti-air. This applies to bomb bouncers and mobile anti-air, which actually don't have enough range to do any damage to a properly microed AC-1000 until cicadas get involved, making the units invisible and allowing them to close the gap. But this doesn't mean these units are useless in such a situation. The enemy can still try to shoot back at your AC-1000s with fighters and fly back into the anti-air cover before your fighters can engage. Following them in and doing the airfight over heavy anti-air is not recommended, as it can result in losing air control, followed by the loss of any bombers or air experimentals you have. Chipping away at this anti-air without flying too close then comes down to the skill of both players involved. Where this range abuse completely breaks the game is when you start holding control while microing multiple AC-1000s. This will basically merge all of them into a single unit, increasing their efficiency exponentially. If you reach this stage, the match is almost always over unless the enemy can regain air control or get a crazy land push with cicadas and adapters going. But depending on how long you've been harassing their eco, they probably won't be able to afford it, since you need at least 2 or 3 cicadas, each one costing as much as an AC-1000, and a couple dozen adapters, each one costing 70 mass. Knowing when you can and when you cannot build AC-1000s combined with the knowledge on how to micro them is probably all you need for now. The next step is playing some PvP and testing it yourself. UEF land experimentals are definitely a bit on the weaker side, and their small land units only get the afterburn ability for movement, which is considerably weaker than jump jets or teleport. So knowing how to use the best air experimental in Supreme Commander 2 will definitely make you a stronger UEF player. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. What? You still haven't joined the biggest Supreme Commander 2 Discord in the world with over 1,000? 2,000? You have General, Hall of Fame, all the YouTube channels, all the YouTube videos, streaming, don't worry about that. Ask for some help, post some memes, send some replays, find a game, dead chat. We even have a channel for all the Xbox Subcom 2 players. So what are you waiting for? Click the first link in the video description or just type Supreme Commander 2 in this thing that nobody will ever use. You should join now! It's not gonna update, they're cached.
We're gonna start in 5 seconds.
Like we'd all have to restart the game.
Wait.
Hold,
3,
whoa.
4.
Wait.
It's actually begun.
It's too late.